A mesmerizing, liberating phrase that consumes their fears. Their hearts are sheltered by a foreign spirit which only provides holiness. Chase holds Lestelle, and they feel at that very moment that love is limited if they can't have each other. Lots of vigilant emotions. What does every letter start with? The letters that form love. Chase never dreamt, but his visions became very vivid when he didn't eat. And he wouldn't eat for anything. He would just be too sad to eat. Whenever he really questioned everything, because intention was trying to frame him with others' hands. And even though those people weren't around anymore, whenever he heard Lestelle crying, he still wished he could change what happened by just knowing what happened. He fell into that vision. And he wondered what it was like to walk the streets when the clouds were just a fog. What it would be like to be normal. And there his heart was shown something it didn't see before. He looked into the windows, which he was afraid of, because God, what he thought was God, at least he said this time, as he was thinking, would destroy him if he looked into the windows of the haunted tower. But he looked in. It wasn't out of curiosity. He just knew he needed to know what was in there. And when he did, he actually found himself. And he told Lestelle, God was made up. Don't cry. He was made up by people who envied kings. If you read the scriptures, you would see it over and over. The people that envy kings. But why? And this is why. When I started thinking that, he told Lestelle, I realized, where we came from, they envied us. And what did they do? They create ways to control us by saying there was a law against who we were. But yet that law still used who we were. It didn't even make sense, did it? And remember, they talked about fallen angels. They were so envious. But what did they compare the fallen angels to? They had to compare it to an identity that really exists. So people would care for these fallen angels and try to make sense of themselves with something that didn't exist. But even the stars, when they fall, the chemicals are useful to us, aren't they? We're made out of it. So how can fallen angels not be good? Even if they exist, which they don't. That's how I knew that this book is made up by people who envied leaders, real leaders, not fake leaders. And how to destroy a real leader, a real king, a real queen, by telling them that if they want to be authority, they cannot have it. And they have to have a fake identity to compare them to. So they created Lucifer. And what did Lucifer did in the book? He asked God, can I sit in your throne with you? And God said, no, that is wrong. And he threw him down. And even though Lucifer wanted to fight him for it, why was God so against something so ignorant as sitting somewhere where you sit? It's not like Lucifer could have dethroned him. God created him. He had more intelligence than him because he was there before him. It didn't make sense. Why would God be so afraid for someone to just sit there? And if it's all about love, which it is, why couldn't he just treat Lucifer equal to him? It's not like he really was. It's not like he even wanted to. But he still felt like him, and that's the level where he should have treated him. But people that envied made up these characters so that when you say, "Can I sit at your throne? Can I sit where you sit?" they'll say no. And you will agree with it because of Lucifer and God, that story. You'll be afraid to question authority because Lucifer was intended to make you afraid because he actually was dethroned. Lucifer was intended for you not to fight for your rights because he was dethroned. God doesn't exist either. It's just to activate us, the part of our brain that sends consent in the wrong way. It was just to make those thoughts very embedded in you. The thoughts that say, "Okay, you're authority, so I will follow you without question because you dethroned Lucifer for questioning you and fighting for his rights, his equality." Because they don't want equality. They're afraid of equality. It's not to say that every king was correct, because they weren't. But these scriptures were intended to make us not question the government against us, so they can get away with what they want. And we cannot question them because of these scriptures, because it was embedded. Now what really exists, and they don't want us to know, and what really is kings and queens, is this air that we breathe. That is king. It keeps us breathing. What really matters is not a throne, it's not a god, it's not Lucifer. What really matters is innocence because it keeps our mind vibrant. It keeps us illuminated within. We don't have to be illuminated like they called themselves. We can light the way ourselves. The stars are not to be worshipped, no, and neither is the sun nor the moon, but they do have life. And it's funny how the Bible and the scriptures don't talk about this. Everything is alive, not only in heaven, but down here. But the Bible wants to talk about this place like it's destroyed already. Why? They intentionally wrote it that way so that we wouldn't focus on the things that matter. So we would focus on to where we need to get instead of where we are. The rocks have life. The grass has life. It provides for us. The animals can feel, they can communicate. Everything that matters, they wanted us to not care for it. They wanted us to care about thrones, and they wanted us to care about angels. The only angels that light our ways are the stars and the chemicals they bring down to us. The galaxies, they watch over us because they know this world before us. They can lead us. They speak in a silent language, leading us every day. How did we survive and they didn't? Because all they cared about was a throne of sex, a throne of beauty, a throne of luxury. But they didn't care about what really needed to be thrown, the innocence, the planet that relies on us. It doesn't rely on us to be saved or save it. It relies on us to communicate. We must always be in communication, mainly with ourselves, which is why they created also prayer. So we wouldn't pray to the things that matter, to the things that can communicate. so that we would waste our time praying to a God that doesn't exist, that cannot communicate. Sending our energies and our brains to not even be in full capacity.